We're all behind our baseball team. Go get 'em, Tiger. World Series bound and picking up steam. Go get 'em.
Alright, I'm here doing a video on the 2009 Tiger season. I decided to do a video this year because I didn't feel like writing, number one. A lot of times people are always asking me, what do you think the Tigers are going to do this year? What do you think about the Tigers? And they talk to me like they want a quick answer. It's a really complicated answer. It's a complicated answer every year. But this year in particular, it's complicated because this year's Tigers team is full of way more question marks than they are in normal years and years past. I mean, there's a lot going on with the team this year. Unfortunately, due to the time that I had in my personal life, I wasn't able to get my notes together for this as much as I wanted to, but I know a lot of this information off the top of my head. Doesn't matter, and I'll use clever editing to correct myself later once I'm done recording the video. As you can see, I have a little bit of cliff notes here to keep me on topic, but basically I'll get to it. The game starts in 2 hours, the first game of the season. I had tickets to go. I have them in this house. I was not able to go for reasons a little bit beyond my control. That's okay. Michigan State basketball's tonight. I get to watch that live, and I'll still get to see it on TV. I'll see the Tigers in Toronto some other time on opening day. They've already done it a few times in my life. So basically, just getting things started with last year. Obviously, last year did not go the way that we as Tiger fans would have preferred for it to go. 74 and 88, definitely not what we expected. Especially after, you know, there was so much hype and so many people were writing the Tigers in as the World Series favorites. I don't know if I ever went that far. Maybe there's some record somewhere of me going that far. I definitely thought they could have won the World Series last year. It's my personal opinion that the Boston Red Sox, until further notice, are permanently and always the favorites to win the World Series. They have the best organization in baseball, in my opinion, the best general manager, and so they are permanently the favorites until otherwise stated. They're the favorites now. They're the favorites in 2009. That's just my opinion. But I thought they could have won last year, and they definitely had the talent to do better than what they did. My personal level of disappointment was not as high as that for the 2005 team. For a lot of different reasons I won't get into now, but it is what it is. So what went on during the off-season? During this off-season, one of the things I find most interesting is I think the quality of the off-season that Dave Dombrowski put together is better than, the whole is better than the sum of the parts. I can't recall an off-season where I liked the individual moves the Tigers made less than this off-season. I don't think they did a single thing other than maybe trading for Josh Anderson last week during the entire off-season that I was really excited about or pleased about. I didn't really like any moves they made. But when I look at the entirety of the off-season, now with the season about to start in 2 hours, I like pretty much what they've done in totality. They've upgraded defense tremendously. They went out, they signed a lot of arms for the bullpen. A lot of them were guys that used to be good off the scrap heap. They did a lot in the draft last year to try to address the bullpen. Of those guys, only Ryan Perry is currently on the active roster, but a lot of these guys could come up later in the year. They really did a lot to upgrade there, along with the few quality guys that they still had around going into the season. I like the acquisition of Gerald Laird in some, and you know they tinkered. They didn't do too much to the nucleus, knowing that this is probably the last run with this group of guys. They're getting a little bit older, and they made the minor adjustments needed to possibly make the improvements to provide the season that we all wanted to see last year. So essentially right now, with the season not having started yet, I'm happy with what they did in the offseason to improve the team going forward. They improved the defense, they improved the bullpen. They didn't make the big splashes that a lot of people wanted to see, but a lot of times it's not the big splashes that win you championships. It's making all the right little moves. And I think that for the most part they did a good job making little moves. Moving on to, you know, this roster, what is this team capable of? So many question marks. This team really could be a division title contender, especially in this year. I don't think the AL Central is very good. I think that a team can win 88 games and win the division. This team also could be a last place team. Too many variables, too many question marks. I'm just gonna, run down the roster basically, say what I think about the guys that we have on the 25-man roster, talk about a little bit of what we might see later on in the season, and then, conclude. And what really is going to separate the Tigers this year from last year's team is the pitching. Pitching very clearly let us down last year, and it's what they're going to need to perform, because I think the hitting is solid enough to win them this division if it performs like it should, but the pitching, they're going to need it. Starting at the top, Justin Verlander. There's a lot of skepticism about him going into this year. I'm a little surprised by that. He did not perform last year the way that we wanted. On a personal level, I'm very comfortable with Verlander this year. I think last year there was a little bit of flukishness going on. I am a little concerned with the drop in his velocity. He did walk a few more guys this year, but control problems were kind of his history even when the Tigers drafted him. They did a good job, whatever they did to him in the minor leagues, to make that less of a problem. They did a good job with it, getting it to not be so much of a problem. But it's kind of his pedigree for that to be a problem. And so it may be something that we have to deal with, or it could have just been last year was one of those years. Either way, this is still a guy who has a good fastball. He has a lot of plus pitches. Seems like he's getting a better grasp on how to pitch. When he's on, he's dominant. And while I'm not prepared to say here that we're going to get the 2007-2006 Verlander back, I'm very confident we won't get the 2008 Verlander. There were a lot of games last year I thought Jim Leyland counted on him in situations where maybe he shouldn't have. There were games where I can remember one game in Chicago early in April last season where he pitched 7 innings. I think he only gave up 1 or 2 runs. It was a really good performance. Then in the 8th, they left him out there in the 8th inning. It was raining that day. I think the same game, Chicago's pitcher, not Cole Hamels, the other guy, Gavin Floyd, had a no-hitter going against the Tigers. And the previous day or days, the Tigers starting pitching had really not performed well. And it was a Saturday game, and the bullpen was exhausted from what the starting pitching had done the previous days. Leyland ran him out there in the 8th inning. He gave up 4 or 5 runs in the 8th. All of a sudden, his mind looks like he pitched terribly, and I saw that happen at least 4 times last year, where he had pitched as reasonably as you can expect your starting pitcher to pitch in this age of Major League Baseball, and where starters are no longer expected to throw 9 innings. And he got left out there to pitch 115, 120 pitches